Welcome back to another episode of STL Real Estate Roundtable. I'm your host, Jaden Barr, CEO and team leader of Keller Williams Realty Chesterfield. And today I'm joined by a very special guest, Danni Hauer Lowenstein.
You got it.
Danni, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I start off pretty much every episode the same way, which is, how did you get started in a career in real estate?
So very interestingly, I was very young. I was probably 24 going on 25. And straight out of college, I had dabbled in insurance for a little bit. And then that led me to selling semi-trucks for Mid-America Peterbilt. So for 3 years, I sold big rigs and then realized that wasn't my end game. And so a friend of mine on Facebook just happened to post about real estate. And she had said, if you're interested, contact me. And I thought it wouldn't hurt. So I reached out to her and her broker. And the next day I was getting into real estate. And so I've been doing this for 11 years now.
11 years. Okay. So let's see. You would have got licensed in
I guess it was 2015, I think.
2015? Okay. 2015. Okay. So probably seen some different things in the market.
Yeah.
Throughout that time, right?
I definitely have seen the ebbs and flows. And so it's really interesting when I talk to kind of the newer agents who maybe started during the pandemic even, and then they kind of, the way it's shifting now, to see them wonder like, what's happening? I'm like, oh, this is normal. Like this is kind of going back to what it was when I started. So it is kind of interesting to see how real estate changes.
Yeah, absolutely. So you get licensed, and then, fast forward 11 years, what if you go back to your first year in real estate, like, what do you remember about your first year?
I knew nothing.
Did you jump full time, like right out the gate? Okay.
Yeah, so I put my 2 weeks in, and then I started as kind of an assistant in cold calling until I was officially licensed. And I remember working my day job selling trucks, and then I'd go at night and I would train with my broker at the time, and I would call and I'd go on showings with them, and I would just really learn it from that back end. And then when I finally got jumped in, I was licensed, and it was kind of a little bit of hand-holding at first, but I think I really needed that team dynamic to teach me and kind of show me the ropes. And it was an exceptional team, honestly. I learned a lot from them. And I think once you real estate's one of those things that you don't know it till you start doing it. And so every deal had its own like challenge or unique experience. And I just felt like the more you did, it was also kind of this game of, I want to do more, because it's just kind of addicting too. Mm-hmm. And I just really fell in love with it, and started grinding really hard in the beginning. Yeah. And I think it really traded off probably around years 4 and 5, all that hard work you put in the first years. I think you see that rotation later, and it's just really rewarding.
Yeah. And things start to snowball too, right? I mean,
100%.
Your first clients, become repeat clients, right? They've turned into buy and sell, right? The second time around, right? So, as you look at kind of like, the impressive business that you have today, what would you attribute? What would be the keys to success for Danni's real estate business?
Something I learned in truck sales. One of my favorite salesmen, he told me, his name was George, and he said, I don't have clients, Danni. He goes, they're my friends. I have friends. Once you learn to make your customers your friends and get to know them, like they will be lifelong clients and friends. So I always try to treat whoever I meet, whether I met them, I used to do a lot of Zillow leads and they were strangers to me at first, but it's like I really just try to get in and learn who they are and really connect with them and then become good friends, because that's really, I think, ultimately what's going to help your business is those people that just, you build some kind of rapport with them and it's genuine. And I really just enjoy meeting new people. And so it's really helped, I think, accelerate my business in that sense.
Yeah.
And not treat it like a one and done transaction.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's all about relationship, right? Mm-hmm. So where do you find the majority of your business coming from today?
Today, a lot of my sphere of influence, a lot of, like you said, repeat customers. I started so young, so I feel like a lot of my friends, people that bought their first house now had gotten married or had babies. So there's a lot of that upgrade where they're needing to buy something bigger and sell that. And then, so just really a lot of repeats. Referrals is huge too. So I love a good referral. And I don't do a lot of online lead gen anymore. I haven't done it for the last 4 years. And I will say it's a little bit more stress-free for me because I love meeting people that have just been sent to me or people I've worked with before. Mm-hmm. So, and it's definitely it's almost a different approach to clients whenever you already know them versus there's just a different kind of sense when you're meeting someone for the first time that you're trying to convince to use you versus someone that was told, oh, they're great, talk to her.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That conversion is so much easier.
Yeah.
you mentioned getting licensed at a young age. There's probably some people watching this that maybe they're younger and they don't have as much gray hair as I'm starting to get.
My colorbline's okay.
Yeah. But maybe they're a young, newer agent.
Yeah.
How did you overcome that in your first few years of being a young agent?
Yeah. I remember getting asked so much more often back then, like, how long have you been doing this? Like, what got you into real estate? Because I knew they were like, you're way too young for this. And I just remember trying to use all my experience, whatever that experience is even for younger agents, whether it's college or whatnot. I said, I've had a couple years in sales, which was true because I did insurance and trucking and this and that. And I kind of just use that. And then I think when you're on a team or a company, it's always easy to say like, well, my company or my team does X, Y, Z, because it kind of takes that pressure off you, but also that's why you're on a team, right? To help each other out. And I think that kind of diverts that question.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly how I handled it too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because I think I was 20 licensed.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was really young too.
I got licensed. So been there.
But it's interesting because I feel like it's all I know too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. So if there is a newer agent that's watching this, that's aspiring to get to the level of business that you're at, what advice would you give them?
I would say don't be afraid to ask for help. If you need to join a team, join a team. There's some really great mentors out there that can help you just even learn about how to, do lead generation, whether it's Sphere or online or however you want to do it. But I think just finding a good support system is huge than trying to figure it out on your own. So that would be one thing. And then also just try to connect with as many realtors as you can. I think what's huge for me is surrounding myself by other successful realtors and learning what they do and how they are effective at their job helps me become better at my job too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great.
So
advice.
go to like the masterminds and get on all like the different blogs and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a networking event pretty much every night of the week that you could go to meet some people.
100%.
Ask questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
What, as you look at kind of like the vision you have for your business in the future, like what is that vision? And then what are some challenges or obstacles that you're currently working through in your business?
It's so funny because I feel like that's a loaded question and it changes for me every day. Like
every day.
Daily. There's days where like, I don't want to do this anymore. But just joking because you love it so much. And then there's days where, I got my brokers a couple years back thinking like, oh, maybe I want to try to run my own business. But I have found that I'm so actively busy in the sales field still like just out doing buying and selling that I don't know when is my right time to pull back. Until recently, kind of like you, I have two little boys now, and I have a 2-year-old and an almost 7.5-month-old, and they keep me extremely busy. I feel like my bandwidth has changed, having become a new mom. So I'm starting to reevaluate some of those goals because it's like, how do I still leverage my business and be successful, but I want to spend as much time as I can with them now. And so I think something that I do love to see, and this is kind of silly probably, but I would love, love, love for one of my boys to take over my business one day, I think, or even being like that mom and son team would be so fun because you see some of those in St. Louis, but not a lot. Mm-hmm. And so I think ultimately I'm kind of looking at what I do now and my drive is generational wealth, right? Like I want to provide for them now. And I always wanted to provide for a family, but now that it's tangible, it's like, oh, that is a real possibility, right? Mm-hmm. And even if they don't want to do real estate, I guess the end game is just to build something that I'm going to be proud of, that either I can maybe start a team or start a brokerage when I'm ready, when the time's right.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I find that in talking with a lot of top agents like yourself, there's some things that they do really well, right? I mean, pretty much every one of these podcasts, it's like, build a sphere and referral-based business, right? Act with integrity, treat people the right way, follow up with people. And it's like, well, it's no wonder like all these people have great businesses. They all treat their business like a business, right? And so, but I think whenever you get to like the level that you're at or the level that some of these agents that I'm talking with are at, is that they really struggle with systems and leverage, right? Because you built your business based off all the tenacity and hard work that it took to get there, and then you're still wearing all the hats, right? Yeah. So what does leverage look like for you in your business, and kind of what's been the most impactful piece of leverage for your business? You mentioned being a mom, right? So your bandwidth is changed, right? So
That's a really great question. And I think you asked about challenge. I will say being a mother is not a challenge. I love it. But you are right. The bandwidth is just the challenge, right? Like I can't spread myself too thin anymore. And wearing all the hats is really hard. And I think successful agents are ones who can juggle all of those things. And they're probably the more control freaks personality, because I know I'm one. So it's really hard to give up some of that trust and give up some of that, trusting someone else with some of your business, because you do want to do it all. And so I think for me, I am actually facing that right now, like trying to figure out how do I leverage myself to become the next better version of myself. And I am reevaluating all those things, because right now I do all of those things. I wear all the hats. And so I'm thinking, well, maybe, is it that I hire a TC, or do I start a team, or do I start an assistant, or do I, combine forces with a very experienced, like, what do I do? Like another agent. And so I'm working through those things as we speak too. And what's hard is when you're busy and you're successful, your client base doesn't slow down.
No,
so while I'm trying to figure
right?
all these things out, my sons still need me here and my clients still need me here. And in the back of my brain, I'm like, well, I want to be here. So I definitely think it's something that I'm going to figure out. And like I said, I've been talking, like, I think surrounding yourself with successful agents and figuring out how did they do it and how are they where they're at is kind of the answers to figuring out, now where does my path go?
Yeah.
So,
success leaves clues.
Exactly.
Right? There's
100%.
agents that have gone before us that have made the mistakes that we don't have to, right? So,
and they'll tell you, and I think that's what's great is agents are pretty honest for the most part, I feel like, and they'll tell you what's hard and what got them where. And so definitely that's my advice, is just keep connecting, keep asking the questions.
How did your experience in selling big rigs translate to selling houses?
Honestly, I think it helped me a ton. That industry is so logistic focused and systematic in the sense of like there is a system for everything, and there is a deadline for trucks, and they have to be on and off, and you follow that. And so I think it really allowed me in my business now to create systems that made me more effective. And so that way I can just pump out deal after deal after deal, because that's what I was used to in that business. And it kind of took off the stress of houses, like maybe you're selling $100,000 house or a $2 million house. With the trucking industry, I would push orders at 23 on like $50 million orders. Yeah. I would just think, I hope this is right. Mm-hmm. And I think it's kind of made me look at this a little bit differently in this industry. But at the same time, I really try to structure my business like it's just, it's a high efficiency, streamlined process. Like you just have to do it. And you have to set up, I think, some sort of organization and some kind of system, because like you said, if you don't have the systems, you're going to fail, or you're going to go crazy, or you're going to lose track of deals, I guess. Like things will fall through the cracks. So it really helps me stay on top of everything in that sense. So I think, and then honestly, the person I worked for back then, I got to go into his negotiations back then, and I just remember the way they did business, and it was so awesome learning from someone who ran a multi-store over states-wide business, and just see how he conducted himself in a professional setting. And I think I learned so much on that level that I bring into my business now. So I'm really appreciative of that person.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Do you find, I think social media is a big hot topic nowadays with agents. Everybody's either doing TikTok dances or trying to blow up on social media. So what's your approach to like social media? Do you use it as a tool for your business, or kind of what's,
I have a love-hate with social media, because sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish I could just give it away and not be on it. But then I realize that is our business and we have to market to everyone. And I do find it interesting, because I think I'm on the tier of like elder millennial when it comes to social media. So I'm trying to learn from the people that are really good at it, that are younger than me. But I'm also trying to see like, okay, well, what are these other generations? How did they use social media, and how do I appeal to everybody? And I can't say that I'm doing the same things as all the agents. I think when we are in real estate, I probably have 700 agent friends, right? But my clients and friends, maybe they're friends with 2 or 3 agents on Facebook. And I have to remember that, because sometimes I can get overwhelmed with, oh my gosh, all these agents are doing this and that. And what if I'm not doing enough? And then I try to blur out all that noise, because you can't get lost in that. And all you need to really do is learn from that. So if someone's successful at doing these reels or this kind of marketing, then maybe I say R&R, rip off and repeat, don't do it word for word, but at least try to if that's successful, I'm going to do the same thing, but change it in your own way.
It's a copycat game.
Kind of a copycat game, but there is something to be said about originality and staying authentic. So I really try to be authentic with what I do on social media and highlight my clients and their success stories and how we got them where they were going. And I think there's something also to be said about all this new AI and stuff that's out there. So, I don't also want to get lost in the easy, quick answer with AI. I still want to keep things genuine and authentic on social media with everyone. And when you see my stuff, I think you can tell that I did it, I prompted it, or I made it, because I still think that says something to, your client base.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what, for those of you that don't know, we're in an industry that's 100% commission based. So like if we don't sell a house, we don't get a paycheck that month, right? Yeah. And so think about maybe some of the more difficult seasons of real estate. Yeah. Like what keeps you going on those tough days? What keeps you motivated whenever it's not easy? Because for those of you that don't know as well, we've had a lot of change in the past 24 to 36 months in the industry. So like what, how do you navigate the constant change in the industry, the struggle of, hey, business is down or business is up? How do I keep going? Like, talk to me about that.
That's a really good question.
A lot of questions.
I think change is inevitable. So you can't get also lost in the change, right? So things are going to change. It's just the way it is. And I think you just need to accept it and learn as much as you can from it and keep going. And sometimes I think whenever there's a lot of change going on, I think it's that time where you just put your head down and dive deep and just like stay focused, go back to the basics. Sometimes it's all about call your clients, explain to them what the change is and what's going on. It's just another reason to reach out, right? Mm-hmm. Hey, what are you hearing in the headlines? Let me tell you what it really means, that kind of thing. Like get ahead of it, get on top of it. And definitely just keep yourself educated about it, I think is important. And then, I think just got to be flexible. Just kind of got to learn to go with the flow. In the beginning when I was younger, I would get so stressed out about things, or if I couldn't change it or control it, and I'd almost make myself sick over it. And I've learned now that if you just kind of let it go sometimes too and give it like 24 hours, usually something's going to resolve, or it's not as scary as it might seem, kind of thing. Yeah. So I think that's the same thing with change. Like it might seem scary at first, but then you're like, oh, I can do this. Like I can deal with it. It's not a big deal. Right.
It's like writing your first contract.
Yeah.
Scary at first. And then you're like, oh, this is totally okay. What do you think about some of we won't talk about the marriage change. We won't talk about that. What do you think about the current like state of the market? Kind of like, what are you seeing and, or what are you noticing at buyer or seller tendencies kind of?
I think kind of we touched earlier, I do think we're shifting back sometimes to a more, and I don't want to say balanced market, but I just think the pandemic changed the market so drastically, and in not in bad ways, like in some good ways as well, right? So things were, rates were amazing and people were buying houses right and left. But I think that, and people were getting way above what they wanted. So I think we're starting to see the market shift back to like, that's just not happening. Rates are kind of more stable now in the upper sixes. And so I think it's kind of slowed some of buyers' reaction to some homes. I think they kind of pause and wait for the right home now. And it's because, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of commitment. And so I've said this before too, if anyone's ever listened to some of my other things, but cooling, and I think there's hot markets and cooler markets, and some markets are still on fire. Like it doesn't matter. It's going to sell right away. It's going to be multiple offers for, 5-10% over, maybe more. And then there's these other markets that are kind of cooling down, and things are going to sit for maybe 2 weeks or a month or more. And it has to be priced just right, or, maybe right below market to attract buyers. And it has to be pristine. You can't just throw the houses that need, cleaning and whatnot on the market more. Like you need to put some work into it again. And staging, I think there's some really great staging companies that have come out recently. And I think like their social medias are fabulous. So this is my little plug-in for staging companies. Yeah. Use a stager if you can. But I think that really helps people in this market. You're going to see more of those again, like staged homes, people doing a lot more. I just think pre-marketing and coming soons and things like that. But I think it's shifting, and not a bad shift either. It's just going to be normal again, in my opinion. So just really listen to your realtor if they're telling you, hey, you're in one of these markets where you need to price it just right, and maybe you should get it cleaned and get a stager, that kind of thing.
What advice would you give to other agents? I think a lot of times the agent-to-agent relationship is
huge,
just as important as the agent-to-client or agent-to-friend relationship, right? Yeah. As you talk about, we don't have clients, we have friends. Agent-to-agent relationship. Like talk to me about that.
I think
Because we've talked about it a little bit with like networking, with getting in rooms with other top agents and things like that. But
I think for your clients, right? Like how important is that?
Yeah.
And I think it's a big deal. I will say, going back to my early years, I remember I would submit offers and I probably would never say anything. I would just click and email it over and hope to hear from the agent. And then I think when that pandemic craziness did happen and there were multiple offers on everything and you just kind of got, overlooked sometimes. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm not getting anything accepted. Like what's happening? And at that time, I remember thinking, I've got to be more creative. I got to do something and I just started calling the agents before I would submit something like, hey, and I just realized at that time that communication with the other side is huge. And it's calling them, say, what is your seller looking for? What can I do to give you the most optimum offer? How do I win this thing? And just stay in touch with that agent, until they pick an offer, basically. Mm-hmm. And I learned that was huge because agents would tell me, oh my gosh, you're the only person that called me. You're the only person I believe is a real person. And I do that to my business now. Like every time I will call, even if I'm on the listing side and I get the offer, I will call that buyer's agent if they haven't called me, just so I can learn about them and their client, because I think that that's huge. And then going forward, just having all these connections when something comes on or if something doesn't come on. I know we hear a lot about office exclusives now, which means private off-market listings. It's like if you have a wide array of agent networks and friends that are in different brokerages, it's really nice to be like, hey, so-and-so, do you have a house that fits this? And I think you wouldn't be able to do that if you didn't have agent relationships, right? Or if you didn't talk to other agents.
Yeah.
So you're only helping your clients out by doing that.
Yeah. The more connected you are, it's like that old saying, it's not about what you know, but who you know, right?
Yeah.
So the more people you know, the more agents you know, the more value you can add to the people that you serve. Okay. So you talked about having friends that are clients, right? Yeah. What's one way or anything unique about your business, whether it be client events, personal touches, ways that you kind of feel like your business stands out from the average agent out there?
That's a good question. I do love a good client event. Like it just gives you a reason to touch base with them, even if they can't come. So I'm all about, and not just quarterly events. Like try to do something every month or however often you can. So I love a good Cinco de Mayo party, or we do like photos with Santa, day at the movies, like anything you can do to just treat your clients and make it not about real estate. I think that they appreciate. So that's probably my biggest go-to. And then honestly, I just love connecting. I like getting to know my clients, and the last couple of years have focused, like, how can I spend my money so that it's meaningful and it's impactful? And I told myself, I'm going to do more one-on-ones. Like I'm going to ask my clients to coffee or to lunch. And I've learned that they want to meet you. They want to go out to it. And if you're paying for it, they're going to come to a free coffee or like, free lunch. But I have thought that that's been so helpful because 9 times out of 10, they'll come to coffee and they'll say, hey, I have 2 friends that want to buy a house and you texted me, so I wanted to meet you and, share their info. So I think that that's huge. Yeah. And it's just developing that relationship even more.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. A couple more questions here. So one is, when you look at the business that you built, what are you most proud of?
It's a really, I don't know. It's a really tough question because there's so many things I am proud about and there's so many things that I still want to improve on. Mm-hmm. But I think overall, it's just the connections, again, like just the consumer service that I think I provide is twofold. And I don't win them all. Like I know there's clients that maybe their other friend or cousin becomes a realtor and that happens. But at the end of the day, I think it's just the impact that I'm making on people's lives and helping them, with one of the biggest investment of their life and doing it in a way that is so fun and easy and stress-free for them, because the process shouldn't be hard and difficult. Even if there is a hiccup, like I just want to make sure the experience for them, whether they're, a family member or a friend, it's just, I just want it to be something that they enjoyed, because I think we've all heard that the top 3 stressful things in someone's life is planning a funeral, getting a divorce, and buying real estate. Yeah. So it's like, if I can make this one easy for you, then, maybe you'll live longer. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe the other 2 won't happen. Right.
Yeah. It won't happen.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's incredible. Okay. So last question here. What is the most impactful book or podcast that I'm putting you on the spot here. I'm putting you on the spot. The most impactful book or podcast that you've read or listened to?
Oh gosh. I think 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is a really good book. I definitely recommend. There's so many good books out there.
It's written by Covey, right?
I think so. I should know since I just said it. But I don't have time to read books anymore right now with my two.
Yeah, you're like,
I
hey,
would love to get back in a book reading game.
I'm reading kid books, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I'd say as far as like podcasters or people, I really like listening. I believe his name is I always get backwards because it's like two first names, but Jared James on Instagram. I don't know if you've heard of him. I'm pretty sure it's James Jared or Jared James. But he is just so, I don't know, he's so knowledgeable and he always knows about the current events in real estate. And I just love listening to his reasoning and his logic. And I think he just always hits the point home all the time. And I think more realtors just need to listen to him.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
yeah, that's probably my go-to right now.
Awesome. Last question, actually, I want to touch on this. So you being a mom, like you're wearing so many hats. Like shout out to all moms out there. All right. I know we're past Mother's Day, but shout out to all moms. So what does that look like in terms of like running a real estate business while being a mom and like wearing all those hats? Cause I mean, I watched my wife do it, and shout out to Rachel. She's holding down the fort, and it's impressive to watch, right? It's impressive. So like, what does that look like?
It's an experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love being a mom. I will say I love it so much. I love my little guys. They're the cutest thing ever. And I do love what I do. There's days where I think like, oh, should I even be doing real estate? Should I just be a stay-at-home mom? But then I think about I am providing for them in so many ways also with what I do and being a hardworking mom and building, like I said, this legacy for them, this generational wealth for them. Like I want to show them that, we can do it all and you can manage it in a successful way, but still have time for family and all those things. So I'm not afraid to take my sons on a showing or a closing. They have been there before.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, it's just you incorporate them. And I think this is the real estate is such a career that allows you that flexibility. There's so many moms that I wish I could, they clock in 8 to 9 or whatever their job is, 8 to 5. And they don't get that luxury of being able to take their son with them on an appointment or something like that. And so in a way, it's kind of rewarding in that sense that they can take them on my professional and my personal life all the time. So
and they're observing so many things with you, watching, how you treat people, how you communicate with people.
And I have an incredible support system. I can't say I do it all. My husband is phenomenal. Like he holds the fort down a lot for me, which is really great. Because there's a lot of nights and weekends that I'm working and so, he really steps up and he's a wonderful father. I'm very lucky.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Anything else you want to touch on?
I think I'm good. I feel like I talked a lot.
You did great. You did great. Awesome. Well, Danni, thank you so much. You've built an incredible business. You're an agent that obviously I respect and admire, and keep up the great work. I know that everybody that's watching this is going to get a ton of value. So we'll see you on the next episode.